I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke
back is broken.
What a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
En ese estilo es un falso, porque él puede dar bien con la pelea.
Welcome to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. It is me, Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Welcome once again. It's been a long time, very, very, very long time. I think it's about a month, but I have to throw in at least every month. I think that's my goal. Or as the fights get better. So here this one goes, and let's get it going right from the gate with great news. We all saw what just happened last weekend. We saw Chon, Zepeda, and Ivan Baranchyk traded blows, traded knockdowns, and eventually, what was it, about 8 knockdowns if I'm not mistaken, and eventually Chon Zepeda landed a big left hand and got rid of Ivan. Now, this was one of those, it's almost guilty you enjoyed so much, but God, was it a beautiful fight. It reminded me a lot of the last decade of fight of the decade, I guess you could say, which, at least in my opinion, it was Victor Ortiz versus Andre Berto, where you get two guys, vulnerable guys, and you know, they end up knocking each other out, and they come back and back and forth, and then you just got something that was extremely beautiful, where you didn't count jabs, you didn't count undefeated records, you didn't count levels of swag. All you got was nothing but beautiful, beautiful fighting, and that's exactly what you got. You got a bull in Ivan, and then you got a beautiful counterpuncher, or more of a purist of a boxer, and Chon Zepeda, and Chon Zepeda was able to fight off the monster that was Ivan, and just gave us a beautiful fight, a fight that we had not seen in 2020. We had not seen anything like that. Everything's been so meticulous. Everything's been so pre-programmed. Everything, it's like, you know, when you order stuff on Amazon and it takes so long, and then when you get it again, and when you finally get it, you're like, oh shit, you get surprised twice. This was something like it, because yes, we figured, you know, Ivan's a hell of a fighter, but then again, you see Chon Zepeda, we've seen him fall short in so many instances, or just not perform to the best of his ability, which you know his ability is, and then he delivers a career-defining fight like he did. I think it was just a beautiful, beautiful fight. It was a scary moment at the end of the when Chon Zepeda dropped Ivan in that 5th round, when we did see Ivan just drop, and it was just a nasty knockdown where you didn't see him get up for a few minutes. So you don't know if, you know, everything was okay, if such a beautiful moment that these both shared in the ring was going to be tainted with something like we're used to in 2019, where we saw so many deaths. But, you know, thank God, you know, everybody came out of that fight great. At least able to speak and get checked out of the hospital the very next day, because I believe both Chon and Ivan Baranchyk were both in the same hospital, and they both got released the very next morning. But at least they got to see another day, and like I said, I would have hated that such a beautiful fight and that they gave us be tainted with anything else but a celebratory weekend for the rest of them. And these are the type of fights that I always talk about, and this is the reason why I hate talking about fighters' purses, about these numbers here, this guy sold so many tickets, and this guy sells so many. I don't give a shit, because at the end of the day, every fighter's going to be able to sell tickets if you put these fights and they match well. Sort of like what they do in the UFC, and this is something my good friend Kiko Valderas and Dos Santos mentioned, is that look at what they're doing at the UFC. It's not that they have a prime guy, or they have a guy you really want to see. They have matches that you want to see. And that's where I think we fall short. I assure you, if you give boxing fans more Chon Zepeda versus Ivan Baranchyk type of fights, a boxing fan's gonna be there because they're gonna rely on you. They're gonna rely on the promoter to give them a great product. This is not something that goes on right now. We don't know. We have to do that extra work to see, okay, is it really worth it to not take my wife out this weekend because there's going to be a great fight? No, there's always going to be a fucking great fight if you give us these type of cards. And it shows you that you don't need these over fucking priced fighters. Get a decent guy versus another decent guy and they will do magic. This is exactly what happened this weekend. Chon Zepeda and Ivan Baranchyk gave us a magical night. A night that none of us are going to forget in any time soon. And guess what? It didn't take $1 million fucking dollars to make it. It didn't take a guy knowing his fucking worth or his fucking counting his motherfucking Instagram fucking followers. It just gave us a beautiful fucking fight. Boxing, please give this to us. Top Rank, continue to give this to us. Golden Boy, please go back to your golden days and give this shit to us. Even Eddie Hearns, like Andy Reese says, give this to us. Find a way to bring these fucking robotic-ass Brits and make them look fucking great in front of us, and we will love you forever. PBC and El Heyman, most of these guys will love you. Maybe not me, but anyways, give me great fights. That way I could go back and boxing go back to its glory days where you're not looking when it, how can I say this? When you're not a fan of a fighter, you're a fan of the sport. And that's what I think it's missing with boxing. We're not a fan of boxing. We're a fan of a matchmaker. We're a fan of a promoter. We're a fan of a fighter. This is not what boxing should be. We should be fucking fans of the sport. We shouldn't be able to pick alliances with Golden Boy, with Top Rank, with PBC. We should say, I just want to see a great fucking fight and do this for us. Make me stay home. Make this fucking quarantine a lot easier. Give us more Chon Zepeda versus Ivan Baranchyk. You guys have the abilities to do that. You guys have the finance because, again, we're not asking for anything crazy. And maybe if the boxing promoters gave us more fights like this, we would actually sit back and just stay our asses home, and this pandemic wouldn't be as fucking stressful as it is. Sorry, maybe I'm screaming too much, but fuck this pandemic already. I'm fucking sick and fucking tired. Still don't want to go to work though. But anyways, let's move on to the next step. But guys, what a great fight. What a great treat. I will forever remember this fight. I will forever remember that it was in quarantine. I will forever remember that this was the best fight that came out of the bubble. And Chon Zepeda, Ivan Baranchyk, if you guys ever want to have a beer with me, I would be fucking honored. Let's jump to the other perspective, other fight that happened, and this was the big event, which was the Charlos brothers, the Lions release out of their fucking cage, and they were gonna go out and beat the shit out of every pay-per-view number. And I went on a little trolling spree on social media because the PBC guys and guys that they like talking numbers. I never liked talking numbers because at the end of the day, what matters is the boxing fight. You have a guy like, I don't know, regardless of where he's from, like Maidana, that comes and fights in foreign soil, and people love him. Why? Because it's boxing. You love boxing over flag. You love boxing over promoter. So you automatically create a fan base. But you got folks like the PBC folks that like to count followers, that like to count, not necessarily pay-per-view buyers, because, I mean, there's not enough, I mean, there's too many fingers in one hand to fucking count them all. But they like to count viewership. And I hate that because they throw it against, like, let's say Fox has a great platform, and they like to put that against ESPN or against subscription-based applications like Zone, and it is just not fair. But again, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? The point is that all I wanted was great fight. And honestly, the Charlo event, the Charlo Bro event was a great event. I love to troll and I like fucking with these guys, but it was a fight that I enjoyed. I did stream it, but I enjoyed it. They did great. I think the performances speak volumes of both of these guys, of their chins, of their willingness to trade, of their ability to follow a game plan. I think it was just an amazing performance on both. And I think what tainted it to a certain extent was the ability for these guys, these PBC fanboys, to count other people's money. So when the numbers came out for the Charlo brothers, they weren't as favorable as they would have loved it to be. As a matter of fact, they wouldn't have been as favorable as I thought they would be, because I think one thing that I did get to know is that there is a fan base out there for these PBC fighters, unlike what I thought. Because again, it's just not something. It's not a promotional company that I really follow a lot. But nonetheless, I do pay attention. But I thought the card would do well, and people ask me like, "What do you think the card's going to do?" I mean, again, number-wise, I'm not a number guy, so I thought it was going to do relatively well. I thought, you know what, a guy like the Charlo, there's 2 superstars in the fight, so you got to double that what is expected. Anything based on their salaries, I mean, anything under 300 is a flop in most instances. That's what having one superstar and then filling out the undercard with semi-mediocre or mediocre fights. But no, that's not what PBC did. Contrary to the norm, not only did they have the Charlo brother, but they had the twin, which is a great thing. Then they added Danny Roman. Then they added Nettie. So they really added some substance to their card. So you're like, oh shit. I mean, if 300,000 is a flop for a guy like, let's say, Canelo, and these guys wouldn't shut up about, oh, Canelo only did 300 or whatever he did against Cotto. I don't care what he did. I just cared to see a good fight. But again, they embed that into your head. That's their argument about what creates a great fight. That you almost are like, oh, okay, when some shit like this happens, your side, I'm gonna throw it in your fucking face. So what ended up happening is the Charlo brothers backed in 120. What they say, or the numbers is 120 thousand buys, which in my opinion is okay. It's good. They're just. I mean, you want to say they're starting off, but they're really not. This is their first pay-per-view. We're in the middle of a pandemic. People don't have the financial resources that they do, so it's a good number. Taking into consideration everything else, but not based on the PBC fanatic guidelines. In my opinion, now they're not talking about it because you bring it up to them, they're like, "Well, what matters is the fight." Yes, it always has mattered. The fights always mattered, but you motherfuckers keep talking about PBC numbers and this and that money that's never going to come to your hands. So I don't know why and I had fun with it because I made fun of it. I said, Golden Boy MMA had made more money. Obviously it didn't because that shit was a fucking flop too. If you guys remember Mosley Mayorga 2, which is an absolute disaster, that was the same night that Leo Santa Cruz was fighting Abner Mares, and somehow Mayorga versus Mosley, both in their 40s, they tried selling out the Fabulous Forum. Again, that was a fucking bunk. So again, it was just me trolling, me being an asshole, me just making fun of them and their numbers. Again, there's nothing wrong with the numbers they did, in my opinion. I think it's very respectable numbers. I think the fact that people, even though the country's going through a hell of a time, they still took their hard-earned money and paid for this fight. I think it's a very good thing. It's a very good sign, and I think it's good. Good, relatively speaking, it's a very good thing. So kudos to the Charlos. I hope they continue to be great. But again, I don't care about the numbers. I wish they continue to give us performances, the type of performances that they gave us this weekend. I hope, just for their fans' sakes, I hope it's not not on pay-per-view because it's very evident that their fan base isn't there to pay for it. I know I wasn't. I saw the fight live, but I wasn't gonna pay a $75 or $65 pay-per-view cost. It did not make financial sense for me to pay for something that I'm not. It just didn't make sense. So again, kudos to the Charlo Bros. They're still going at it. Their performance with Deverenchenko for, what was it, Big Charlo, great performance. He beat the living shit out of Deverenchenko. Deverenchenko did not look like he had that type of spunk he did versus Triple G, or versus Daniel Jacobs. It could be a factor of two things. Charlos are really big dudes. For 160, even for 154, they're really, really, really big dudes. So Deverenchenko didn't look like he had any business doing any type of fighting with them there. It could have been that I believe it's like the third war that they had. Every fight takes a little out of a fighter. And going through war with Triple G, I mean, that had to be brutal. Daniel Jacobs, again, brutal. But more importantly, that Triple G fight, he looked like Deverenchenko did lose a step or so. Again, I don't want to take anything from Charlo because, in my opinion, I thought this was the toughest test of his career. I thought this was the guy that was going to give him the most shit, and it proved otherwise. They look great. He looked great, and he just looked magnificent. So you gotta, as much as you don't like the triangle effect, you kind of have to use it. This guy did good versus this guy, and how would he fare with this other guy? I'm not knocking them. I'm not knocking them as far as their fight. I'm not knocking them versus the opponent they had. I congratulate the Charlos. I think they did a magnificent job, and I really hope they continue to climb the ladder, and each opponent gets a lot better till they fight a legitimate guy. Oh, no, I got to take that back. Not a legitimate guy, a better opposition, because Deverenchenko was a good opposition. And the same thing for Baby Charlo, Mel, whatever his name is, fighting a guy like Banana Rosario. It was great, which was a great fighter. I thought it was a magnificent fight, a beautiful shot, a beautiful body jab that took him down. I thought it was just perfection. Again, nothing bad is there to say about the way that each of their fights ended up. They were beautiful, beautiful fights. Again, the numbers don't mean shit, because at the end of the day, if you can fight, you can fight. Look at Lara. He ended up in some of the greatest fights, and his numbers always mean shit. So kudos to the Charlos, Lions Den only, whatever they call it, LDBC. I don't care. Whatever it is, shout out to them. They can fight, and I can't wait to see them versus the elite of anywhere from 154 to 168, maybe even 175, because shit, they look like they could carry that weight, right? Another news and chisme, Canelo sues Golden Boy yet again. Golden Boy and DAZN. The first lawsuit was thrown out, and Canelo had a certain time to file. Of course, Canelo did have to file because no boxing, no life. They filed again. God knows what's going to happen. Look, the only one that hurts is not Canelo. Canelo is financially set for a couple of lives already. The fans, his fan base hurts. Boxing hurts. Obviously, Canelo is the face of boxing. And having him sit out for many, many fights. I mean, he's losing about 3 fights a year. When it wasn't for, the drug performance enhancement drugs, the clenbuterol that they cut in the system. That year he had to sit out. Then now with this thing with DAZN, I don't think Canelo's going to fight any time in 2020. The rest of what we have, and I don't know how it's going to look for around mid-year. Maybe all the dust settles, and hopefully him and Golden Boy can move on and to a better place, whether it's together or without. But it doesn't look good. It sucks that what we think it's the fighter of this generation, what we think is the fighter of this generation is sitting out. It kind of sucks, but it kind of makes sense, man. This generation's kind of fucked up, and I sound like a whole man now, but it seems like all they do is complain. The prime examples is little baby Pochito bro, Ryan Garcia, that's now announced one of the most marketable athletes, but yet can't secure a fight date. The Luke Campbell fight has been mentioned I don't know how many times, and then they went from being mentioned from fake posters to Ryan trying to fight these YouTube weirdos. What the fuck is happening with that kid? Look, I'm not the kid's biggest fan, but I am a fan. I am a fan of Ryan. I want to see him fight. I want to see him grow. This isn't the way, bro. This isn't the way. Hopefully he knows more than what I know, and he ends up fighting formidable opponents. But again, this isn't the way. All right, guys, let's get to upcoming fights. There's 2 upcoming fights that I'm really excited about. 2 cards. One is on the 16th, this coming up weekend. That's October 9th for Las Vegas on ESPN. That's Emmanuel Navarrete versus Ruben Villa for, I think it's a vacant. Yeah, it's a vacant WBO featherweight belt. Now, Navarrete's been cruising, just beating the living shit out of everybody. He was a big 122-pounder, but it's the trip. It's crazy what 4 pounds makes. And here's the thing with Navarrete. It's a big dude. It reminds me a lot of Margarito. Throws a lot of punches in volume, but Margarito, I think his landing ability was a lot better. Now Ruben Villa, this fight could very well, in my opinion, very well be just like one of Margarito's fight, and it could be like Margarito Mosley. Ruben Villa has a lot of movement, he has a lot of good legs, but he just never been to this level. Now, can he outbox the what seemed to be the bigger Navarrete? At least stature-wise, is way bigger. Ruben Villa's been at 126 for quite some time now, so he should be able to handle that Navarrete's weight fairly fine. Now, can Navarrete bring that same power he had 122 to 126? That is the question. Can he do it? Will he do it? We don't know. You know what? If I'm a betting man, I think the bet to make is on Ruben Villa. I really hope he takes it. I think he has, again, all the attributes to beat on Navarrete. I always said that a guy that has good legs could beat and then maybe even humiliate a guy like Navarrete. Might be wrong. Maybe I'm a little salty because of the Panchito fight, but I think Ruben Villa becomes a champion this weekend. Now, the big fight of October, the one that everybody's been waiting for, that is, of course, coming up on the 17th. 17th, again, in Las Vegas, on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. That's Vasily Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. And that shit has a bunch of belts. What is it? WBO, WBA, IBF, and then I think Vasily is a what do they call it? I don't even know what type of WBC champion emeritus. I don't know what the hell, but he's a WBC champion. So that's the fight for all the marbles. That's the fight that I've been really excited to see. I can't wait to see this fight. I've been looking forward to it. Every time I talk to somebody, I kind of change my mind. But I mean, I always gear towards a guy like Loma. And again, if you guys know me, I've never been the biggest fan of Loma. I think it's very frustrating to watch because I kind of put myself in the opponent's shoes. Like, you can't hit the son of a bitch, so I don't want to watch him if a guy can't hit him. I think a guy like Lopez is going to bring the best out of him. But at the same time, a guy like Lopez, I think Loma has to fight the perfect fight to be able to get away from a guy like Lopez. Lopez is very sharp, very fast, very strong. The minute he touches a smaller guy like Loma, he is going to hurt him. I do see maybe a couple of scary moments early on, but I still see a great fight with Loma winning. We'll see what happens. I'm really excited. Hopefully, I do come to do another podcast before that fight, and I don't take my usual month off. The good thing about that card is that Arnold Barbosa Jr., which you guys know that I'm very, very, very hyped on, local kid from El Monte, is going to be fighting, and he's going to be fighting Alex Alcedo. So that's another type of fight like Chon Zepeda versus Ivan Baranchyk. Same style of fights. I think Barbosa is a beautiful boxer puncher. Alex Salcedo, we already know, his fights with his face, in front of his knees. So this is a recipe for just a beautiful, beautiful fight. And of course, Edgar Berlanga is going to fight in an 8-round super middleweight fight. That kid's a monster too, beast of a kid. I did say that I was going to read a couple of you guys' questions because I think I want to. Well, it's only fair. I think this podcast is only as good as its listeners. So I've always thought that I was going to have everybody that listens to my podcast make sure they comment and whatnot. So let me take a look at what you guys asked me, whether it's on DM or whatnot. Of course, Adrian161 always wants nudes, and I always have to tell him no. But he did ask a serious question. He says, speak on why you don't believe in Leo. Oh, that's a good question. The same way all the cholos were certain Abner would school him twice. And he shrugs his shoulders. One, I never thought Mares had a shot. Two, I'm not a fucking cholo, Adrian. Stop it. But no, here's what I don't really speak on that fight, and it's at the end of the day, it's two guys, two hands. They both him and Tank have amazing abilities. But whenever you put a good fighter, a good small fighter versus a great bigger fighter, you know who's gonna win. It's not like Leo's advantage is being faster. It's not like Leo's advantage is being stronger. What is Leo's advantage? And remember, I love Leo to death. I think he's a great fighter. But it's like a car that has 6 gears, right? So, 1, Leo shakes his hands, gets out of first. He goes to third. He's going about 40 miles on second gear. Goes to third. He gets to 60 miles an hour. So guess what? He's the little Honda with 60 miles, and that's where he stays because that's where he's comfortable. That's where he has the ability to shake his little wrist and his hands as the fight goes on. And guess what? He's up against a fucking Ferrari. With a fucking 10-speed manual transmission. Maybe I'm talking too much car shit. But you know what? You guys get what I mean. He's up against a faster, stronger guy with more wrinkles to his game that's going to have a hell of a weight advantage on him. There's nothing there. If this was a guy that, two guys that were from the same weight division that been campaigning at the same division for a very long time, I would say, guys, you know what? I think Leo could outwill him. I don't think there's a outwilling situation here where Leo's just gonna outwork a guy like Tank. You don't do that. I hope that Leo. I hope I'm fucking wrong. You know what? I don't hope I'm wrong. I hope that we get a great fucking fight and they beat the shit out of each other. But I don't think Leo has the abilities or the wrinkles in his game to be able to make a dent on a guy like little baby Cabbage Patch, Gervonta Davis. Gonja13. What did I say? Gonja. His name is Joey. Joey from Vegas says, only boxing we need to talk about is Chavez Jr. and how his own country robbed him of a victory. And what he means is 2 weeks ago, we saw an exhibition fight in the zone. And you know what? I did forget to talk about this fight, and it was on my notes to talk about it. But, Chavez Jr. fought a guy coming out of Mexico, supposedly this amateur kid that was an amateur at the same time as Canelo, as Chavez Jr. Eventually, this guy decided to go to school and not pursue his boxing career. At a later time, he decided to do it, and he's doing it as of late, last maybe 2 years. So Chavez, his father, Chavez Sr., was supposed to fight a exhibition fight with Jorge Arce, Traviso Arce. They did it. They had fun with it. It was a great event. Brought a lot of memories as a child. Watching Chavez Jr. move around, move his waist, throw punches, throw the beautiful, left hook to the body. It was just a beautiful event. Maybe smile, maybe grab a beer. That's not something that I do as much anymore. But it was just fun. Then Chavez Jr. comes on. And Chavez Jr. just starts to get bullied by this other guy that's at 165 pounds. Again, a guy that's unknown that nobody knows about. That, again, they fought when they were amateurs. And all of a sudden he's making a comeback into the professional rankings. And he starts slapping Junior around. Junior looked like he was just going to spar and just go in there and beat the shit out of this guy. I never really seen any real training from Junior. So it looked like he didn't have any direction. He was just going to go in there and work. And this guy started bullying Junior. Started, I guess you could say, fighting a little dirty. And all of a sudden, Junior's cut. And Junior figured, you know what, I'm in Mexico. This is my dad's card. This is la tarjeta. This is la cartelera de papi. And he said, you know what, fuck it. Let's stop the fight. I'm already bleeding. I'm about to have a kid again. Let me just go home and smoke a bowl and, go about my day. Junior thought they were going to stop the fight on cuts and they were just going to, call it a no contest or something. Or that he was, because it is his card, he was going to be ahead on the scorecards. He thought that Mexico was going to favor him, but, contrary to popular belief, the cards aren't that bad in Mexico. So they favored the right guy, and this guy, I already forgot his name that he fought. Casares, I believe is his name. He won. He beat the son of the legend, Chavez Jr. All because Junior thought that he was going to be able to get away with the scorecards. Chavez Jr. has become the laughing stock of Mexico, and I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's helped him generate a lot of money. He sells a lot. He does very great numbers with DAZN. There's a reason why DAZN brought her back, not only for his dad, but because Chavez Jr. actually makes decent numbers. He makes better numbers than Boo Boo Andrade. And that's on these cheap exhibition-y type of fights. So why wouldn't DAZN bring him back? So I think we continue to see Chavez Jr. I think we need to be more careful on what fights he takes. And it's the responsibility of a viewer. Look, if he keeps on selling those type of fights, it's only fair for DAZN to try to pay a minimal fee because they're going to get a lot for their money. So it sucks for him, but hey, if it works for him, good for him. Let's see. What else we got? I think we're going on a rant here. Pac-Man. Los_Angelo says, I think he tries to say, Henny, the fuck is Henny? Like, I guess what the fuck is going on with Haney? Boxing against washed up Yuriorkis Gamboa. Nobody giving him shit for that cherry picking. Yeah, that's a lot of typos. But look, Haney's an interesting fella. I think he's a hell of an athlete. I think he's a great fighter. But guys fighting on Gamboa are fighting on the pyramid scheme. They think because the guy looked good, that's why I should pick him. You guys know that Gamboa looked like jack shit versus Gamboa, I'm sorry, didn't look like jack shit against what's the little cabbage kid that Leo's fighting again? You guys know what I'm talking about. Tank Davis. So because he didn't look like shit, that's what they're bringing him on. The fact of the matter is that Gamboa is not all that great, not anymore. It's very chinny, very suspect. And a guy like David Haney is just going to go. Honestly, it's not going to be a great fight. It's going to be because you're putting two guys that could honestly at any given day just box your head off. And if that's what they're going to do, I think a guy like Gamboa is going to be very tentative. He's not going to be stupid. He's a great Cuban amateur. He's going to chill, relax, and try to box to a decision. And I think David Haney, being a beautiful boxer, I think he's going to try to do the same thing. He's going to try to lure Gamboa in, but he's not going to fall for it. So we're going to get a shitty fight. And I agree with you. This is not going to be. This is not a great matchmaking type of fight. Let's see. Chuy Magallanes says, Who do you match Luis Neri with? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, there's so many fights. There's the babyface assassin. Who was out there? There's the 7 foot, 122 pounder from Mexico. There's Gary Russell Jr. In or around those weights. So there's fights for him, especially the PBC route. So there is options for fun fights. So it's all up to him. And Israel Luna asked, what do you think about Navarrete? How would he do at 126? That's something that I had already answered. I think he does carry some pop, but I just think versus the right foe. Not against any of these guys. And I think I had another question here. Let me see. Let me go through it here. Some guy said that he wanted to spar me, Treasure of Darkness. That's not going to happen, bro. My knee hurts. Let's see. Canuto 805 asks, Chia versus Josecito Lopez. Guys, if you guys haven't heard it, anyways, you guys are going to hear it here first. Chia versus Josecito Lopez in the undercard of Garcia versus Errol Spence. That's what it looks like. Those are what the rumors are. I love that fight. I think it's a great fight. You see, that's another one of those fights that, again, you don't need $1 million to make $1 million fight. Great fight. You know, both Chia Santana and Josecito Lopez are there to fight. What's there not to like about these type of fighters? I think they're there to look good against each other. I think they're gonna steal the show. And man, who am I rooting for? I'm gonna root for Chia. That's my guy. That's who I'm gonna root for. My dude Cubano. I have a lot of cop friends that follow me here. Cubano CLX asks, why the fuck is Oscar trying to make a comeback? That's one question. Will Canelo fight a good fight? Will Canelo fight a good opponent? And Boo Boo Andre, Charlo Saunders, thoughts on Davis versus Santa Cruz. Okay, let's see. So let's start off with the first one. Is Oscar trying to make a comeback? No, I don't think so. I think Oscar's just trying to stay active. Oscar is one of those guys that knows how to move the needle. So anything Oscar says, we will talk about, just like we're doing right now. So no, I don't think Oscar's trying to make a comeback. I think he's pulling everyone's leg. He's doing it to stay fit, he looks great. So good for Oscar. So don't read too much into these type of things. Oscar will always throw a curveball at you, especially when things are a little crazy. So kudos to Oscar, because I did see him in the pads the other day with some little stiff ass white boy, and it was something else. And again, will Canelo fight a good opponent? Not anytime soon. I don't think the only good opponent he's going to fight is De La Hoya's lawyers. As far as good opponents, as far as in the ring, I don't see him fighting anybody anytime soon. So all those Booba Andre that you said, or Charlo Saunders, I don't think that happens. And honestly, I don't think Saunders that much of a great opponent. He's just a guy with great legs. I think him and Booba Andre and Saunders should just go to war themselves. And thoughts on Davis versus Santa Cruz. You see, that's how you could tell that good fight sneaking up on us. Again, great fight. I love the fight. You know what? I should take that. I don't love that fight. I think it's a predetermined winner already. I hope I'm wrong. I just hope for a great fight. Again, guys, I'm to the point. I don't care who wins. I really don't. What I care for is for a great fight. And if you could bring that to me, just like we got this Saturday versus Chon Zepeda. I said Chon Zepeda versus Ivan Baranchyk. I think we have a great thing going. Guys, this is it. Thank you guys for listening today. Remember, if you guys can do me a big favor, if you guys listen to this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and make sure you hit the notifications bell. If you guys can do that on Spotify, on iTunes, again, make sure you get subscribed, leave a comment, leave a note, whether you rated a 1 or whether you rated a 5, hopefully a 5. Please let me know. Guys, again, thank you for listening to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you. Enjoy.
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke
Back is broken.
what? A vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
A big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
Not bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
El ese estilo es un fallo de porque